Chapter 13, Recording Number 1, Iskarioth/Immanuel Sananda, Thursday, August 10th, 1989, 7:15 a.m., Year 2, Day 359. Dharma, Sananda here. It is recognized that most of the lessons have already been given unto you regarding the last pages of the ancient scrolls. As these will also be brought forth in the exact format given, I choose to have the scrolls translated for you ones a second time, that the records be untainted. There is only one other section that I wish presented in current format, and it is the one of the crucifixion as presented by my most revered and honored Gabriel. I will give you instruction for the publication of the remaining material as we reach the conclusion of the translations. I place my seal and my truth upon these words. I again relinquish the circuitry to Judas Iskarioth, that you can continue with as little interruption as possible. Thy brothers can be organizing the materials given since I began the regular lessons, that they will be the next binded. I must have rapid catch-up with the public input, so we will back with credentials as we move forward, as well as publish many of the lessons of Aten, and our beloved Kohans of the Seven Rays. You do not concern yourself with it now. Some letters of credence will be published with several of the documents. I now move to standby. Blessings upon the word. Judas to continue, Dharma. Greetings in a new day, in the glory and radiance of the most radiant one. Laws and commandments. Immanuel spoke of the commandments and laws thusly. Since the commandments of the creation apply, and also the laws of God, thus they shall be followed and respected. Since the laws of the creation are the laws of the Spirit, so are the laws of God the laws of order and life. God issued the laws as regulation for that which is right, and also as a guideline for life. Thus, laws and commandments serve as paths upon which man shall walk in wisdom and intelligence, if he is truthful in his righteousness. Inasmuch as the laws of the creation and the laws of God are followed, there is no need for men to bring forth other laws of any kind whatsoever. The laws of the creation and the laws of God shall be considered as the true laws, and they shall have to be followed, for they alone are valid. If man deviates from these commandments and these laws, he brings forth human laws which are based on false logic, and therefore are faulty. If man is faint of heart in spirit, so are his laws faint-hearted, and are like heresy. If man is presumptuous and disregards the commandments and the laws of the creation and of God, he is forced to bring forth his own laws, which are full of mistakes, and lead him astray. Laws and commandments made according to men produce murder and evil will spread and gain control, and man no longer has any power over it. Commandments and laws are valid only if they are derived from wisdom and logic. But logic requires wisdom and perception. Human commandments and human laws are powerless if not based upon the laws of the creation, and God's laws are also based thereon, as were issued by him in wisdom. Proverbs. Verily I say to you, wisdom has to be learned from the laws of the creation which man perceives in nature, but if man does not think and search, he will not attain wisdom, and remains a fool. The wise do not cry over lost things, over those who have physically died, or over things of the past. Fools cry over things that are not worthy of weeping. Thereby they increase their grief, and obviously are in need of experiencing misery. He who is rich in wisdom and lives according to the laws does not allow that creatures should suffer, even the least pain or wound, if they are without fault. A fool or a madman who does not conquer and control his emotions considers destruction as an advantage, and reverse-wise, an advantage as destruction, and considers great suffering as a type of joy. Because men do not follow wisdom and do not seek knowledge, nor perceive the laws, they are filled with imprudence and vice. The dishonest, the stupid, the defiant, the miserly, those without moral scruples, the coarse and vulgar, and the angry will be hurt as someone who is poor in spirit. If a person perceive daily in due manner just a little wisdom in spirit, He progresses like the moon during the light of thy month cycle. Wisdom is the greatest asset of man, and so is the great created will, which is Lord over love and happiness. But all this has no meaning without the power of spirit. A fool who waits for fate to act, without doing anything himself, perishes like an unfired pot placed in water. He who takes care of a cow always will receive milk. Likewise, he who nurtures wisdom and applies it through the power of spirit brings forth rich fruitage. Perceive every law of the creation, and once you have perceived it, seize it and live accordingly, for the laws are the greatest of wisdom. There is no eye that is equal to wisdom, no darkness equal to ignorance, no power equal to the power of the Spirit, and no terror equal to that of spiritual poverty and deprivation. There is no higher happiness than wisdom, and no better friend than knowledge. There is no other Savior than the power of the Spirit. He who has intelligence may grasp my speech, so that he is wise and knowing. Saul confronted and confused. As Immanuel finished this discourse to the ones gathered with him, a man named Saul came to him and said, "You are preaching heresy, and it is strange to me. Listening from the onset, it appears most stupid, and your spirit seems greatly confused." Immanuel responded with irritation. "How can you tell me that I am confused in spirit, whereas it is you who is completely confused in spirit? Verily I say to you, Saul, you are persecuting me, as well as my disciples, because of my teaching. But you will change your mind, my friend. From now on you shall be named Paul, and travel in all different directions, and you shall have to suffer greatly for having called my teaching heresy and my spirit confused. You will heap upon your back a great, great burden, for in your lack of understanding and foolishness you will misunderstand my teachings, and therefore teach falsely. Your speech will be confused, and the people all over the world will be in bondage to your false word, and slaves unto it, and will worship the doctrine of lies which you will put forth unto them. Ye will not even be in the knowledge of that which you do, but in the ending ye shall be required to rectify that which you shall perpetrate in this time. You will place the entire land of the Greek in bondage to an evil cult with your false teachings. Thus you will call me in their language, the Anointed. It will be the fault of your ignorance that they will call me Jesus Christ, which means the Anointed. My name is Immanuel, God among us, and ye shall be responsible for thousands of generations to be in false knowledge. Further, it will rest on thy back, in thy ignorance, that the wondrous name of Jesus will be used falsely, and in that name human blood will be shed. So much will be shed that it cannot be contained in all the now existing containers. So be it, Paul, for it shall come to pass. You continue to persecute me and also my disciples because of my teaching. Soon, however, the time will arrive when you will change your perspective. You will face me another time and will assume that I am a spirit form. Oh yes, ye shall be brought up most short. Verily I say to you, as so many others, you will be to blame greatly that my teachings are adulterated, and that the human races build erroneous cults. For in your enthusiasm you shall not learn the truth in wisdom. You will be the cornerstone of the senselessness that I will be called Jesus Christ, and the Redeemer of false cults, and it shall cause me to need refer to an erroneous name in the ending, that I be recognized as who I really am. Even my scribes will have forgotten my name by the ending of your earth times. So shall it come to pass, before the fulfillment of the prophecies, that these things will be set to right, that man will see and know of his errors. Immanuel was furious, seized a stick, and chased Saul away. But Saul then joined with Judah Iharioth, the son of the Pharisee, and counseled about how best they could seize Immanuel, so that they could turn him over to the persecutors, for his thoughts were filled with revenge and hostility. When Saul had gone, Immanuel called his disciples together, spoke to them, and said, "You know that Easter will be in 2 days, and I shall be turned over to the courts to be crucified as it is destined, so that I may learn therefrom. Immanuel's betrayer, Judah Iharioth. My traitor will be Judah Iharioth, the son of the Pharisee, for his mind is interested in only gold, silver, material goods, and chattels. He shall betray me for 30 pieces of silver, for he is misled, for he has been so taught by his father in avarice and greed. His joy in the pieces of silver, however, will be most short-lived, for he is most fickle and unsteady, and will soon be filled with overwhelming remorse for his actions. On suicide. Since Judah Iharioth is without courage and of very small faith, he will put a rope around his neck and upon a tree branch, and hang himself to death. Verily, verily, I say to you, even though Judah Iharioth's suicide appears just, he is acting totally without justice. For even though man has free will regarding himself, he does not have the right to decide over his life or his death. The intent of the laws is such that man live his life to the end, so that he may perfect his spirit in this manner. If he judges himself through suicide, he deviates from the law, and violates the plan of the creation as well as the laws of the creation. Perceive from that man has no right to decide over his life or his death. Even if man has experienced for a specific purpose that he might precipitate death in intent for another's growth, he should allow the Spirit to take such control and allow the balance of judgment thereof into the hands of the Spirit. Man has only the right to determine the kind of life he wishes to live, but not the right to decide over life and death itself. The laws say that there is no event or any situation would justify suicide. Ye would be wise to take note, however, that in some apparent events of suicide there is not the personal act of self that causes the dimensional change, but rather the ultimate spiritual purpose that comes into operation. Ye ones of earth physical aspect are not given the right of judgment. Suicide carried out by a third hand, which means through a hired murderer, or murder for reasons of mercy, is against the laws of the creation. However much guilt a man may acquire, and however large the burden may be, he has no right to determine his own death. Even though Judah Iharioth incurs great debt, he has no right to decide over his life and death. Further, no matter how much good a perceived death by suicide might appear to bear, think of the possible good that a devoted life in truth and wisdom could bear. Each debt and each mistake are a way to understanding from which the spirit is perfected. If man is escaping from guilt or a mistake, or whatever might be the predicament, by killing himself, he escapes from perception and has to learn that perception in another life experience at some appropriate level of understanding. Therefore, he only delays the process of perfection of the spirit, which is not the will of the creation. Either way, suicide is an act of deplorable cowardice and a disregard of the laws of the creation. After Immanuel had finished this lesson, the disciples were very agitated and said, "Why do we not just catch Judah Iharioth and stone him, lest he can betray you?" The meaning of the crucifixion. Whereupon Immanuel was furious and shouted, "Do you not know that I prophesied? Sorry, let me start again. Do you not know what I prophesied to you? That I would be crucified in order that I would attain a certain understanding? How dare you disregard the destiny of the laws, since this is intended? As I go my way, so every man will need go his way. Verily I say to you, if I were not to follow my destiny, how could I fulfill my mission, which will lead me on into India and other places where I must experience in my truth and growth?" Disciples misunderstand teachings. "O you of little faith and less courage, I taught you the truth, and you recognize it not. How can you not comprehend it? For it will be through your refusal to comprehend in truth, after my departure, my teachings will be adulterated by you and spread as false doctrines and as false cults in every direction of the world. All over the world, false guidance and false teachings will resound, and man will be against man in my false name, and a nation will rise against nation. Blood will be spilled upon this blessed creation of earth in the name of falseness, and ye shall bear of the burden of that truth." Many among you will bear the guilt therein, that man does not recognize the truth, even though I have long taught it to you in purity. How can you continue to misunderstand? There will be great resounding in the world regarding your false teaching, which you will spread helter-skelter about the lands. Some of you will care so little after my departure that you will bother not to teach at all. So be it, for the prophecies must be fulfilled in their proper time. You have not understood the wisdom in my words, nor the truth of my teachings. You are struck with blindness, just as are the people, just as predicted by the prophets for this human race. But, since I fulfilled my mission among this generation, and could not teach any reason unto the people, because they do not think with reason, therefore I will leave, for the teaching of the truth shall be brought also to the two other human races in the north and in the east. Inasmuch as this race is under the guidance of God, so are the two other races under him, for he is the Lord of the three human races. I have been sent here as God's prophet, according to his will, so that I will teach the three human races the new doctrines. Therefore, I must walk in the path which was destined by God, since I serve his will and his laws, as God himself serves the laws of the creation. Let us take a respite, please. Salut. Chapter 14. Recording 2. Harrioth/Immanuel Sananda. Thursday, August 10th, 1989. 11:15 a.m. Year 2, Day 359. Immanuel finished his talk with the disciples, and we all left for Bethany and the house of Simon the leper. The woman with the precious water. Behold, a woman came to Immanuel. She had a glass of precious water, perfume, which she poured on his head as he sat at the table. When the disciples noted what she had done, they became angry and disturbed and said, "What is this waste good for? This water could have been sold at a high price, and the proceeds used for the poor." Immanuel scolded the disciples and said, "Why do you upset the woman? She did a good deed unto me, for she believes in my teachings, and in this way shows her gratitude, and nothing is too expensive for her. This woman has become wise and lives according to the laws of the creation. Therefore she thanks me with this precious water, and I am humbled by her gift. Her gratitude will be lasting, and from this day forward her deed shall be known throughout the world. Verily I say to you now, that whatever my teachings will be preached in all the world, or that wherever my teachings will be preached in all the world, whether falsified or in truth, people will remember what she has done this day as a gift unto me. This will be remembered for all time to come. Also, a false accusation regarding which one of you betrayed me shall also forever be remembered, and not until the closing time of fulfillment will it be set to correction. While we are gathered here, Judah Harrioth, the son of the Pharisee in Jerusalem, is conjuring a plot against one among you, since they want to present a culprit from out of my own disciples before the people. Blame Judas was the plan. When Judah Harrioth, the son of the Pharisee, will turn me over to the persecutors, my disciple Judas Iscariot will be contrived the traitor. This is so that the people will say, "Behold, these confused people are divided among themselves, and therefore one betrays the other." So, how can the teaching of Immanuel be truth, since Judah Harrioth, the son of the Pharisee, and my disciple Judas Iscariot are of most identical names? The lie of the high priests will be accepted from the beginning. The Last Supper. On the first day of the unleavened bread, Immanuel spoke to his disciples, "Go into the city to a certain person, and speak to him, and say, Immanuel says to you, I wish to have a last supper with my disciples at your dwelling. Please, for behold, Easter is near." The disciples did as Immanuel had asked them, and they prepared the meal. When they sat down and ate, he said, "Behold, the time is near that I shall have to take my heavy burden upon my shoulders. I do, however, go where I am supposed to go according to the prophets. However, I shall only appear to be in death, and will suffer much pain of the physical body. You are not to be afraid, and do not be in trepidation, for this is that which I must do. There are none who can bear this adversity in my stead, nor will any be able to share of it. Verily I say to you, until this is past, I shall no longer drink of the fruit of the vineyard, or eat of the bread, until the time comes that I shall drink it and eat it anew with you. When I shall have risen from the state between physical life and death, I shall have lain in the tomb for 3 days and 3 nights. When they ate, Immanuel took the bread, broke it, and gave it to the disciples, saying, Take and eat. The body needs nourishment also in times of need and grief. And he took the cup, gave it to them, and said, All of you drink from this cup. Your throats are thirsty also on rainy and cold days. Verily I say to you, as you do not understand my words now and are annoyed with me because of them, so will you be annoyed with me this night, because your minds still not have been enlightened. When I rise from the tomb, I will walk in front of you to Galilee, so that you may perceive in truth of my words. I have taught you wisdom and truth, but you doubt and do not believe me. Oh, you who are so faint of heart and of such little faith, how startled you will be, how confused, when I shall meet you again after being seemingly dead. But Peter answered and spoke to him, Even if they were all angry with you, I would never be angry. Immanuel rebuked him. Verily I say to you, you will be one of the worst, for in this night, before the cock crows, you will deny me 3 times. Peter contradicted, This will never come about, and even if I had to die with you, I would never deny you. Thus spoke all of the disciples, for they could not believe the words of Immanuel. In the garden of Gethsemane, after they had eaten, Immanuel went with his disciples to Gethsemane. In a large garden he spoke to his disciples, Sit here until I go there, and have a while to pray and meditate. He took with him Peter and the 2 sons of Zebedee, and he began to mourn and was filled with despair, for he was anxious and desolate. And he spoke to them, Behold, I am wise and have great knowledge, but I am human, and am apprehensive of the things yet to come, for this is man's lot. My heart is utterly sorrowful. Therefore stay with me and watch with me, so that I shall not be so lonely. It is easier to bear a hardship with another, or more, than alone. If God wanted it to be, this cup would pass me by. But not my will, but his will be done. For this is what he has planned for me, and is that which I came to bear. As he was speaking thusly, Judas Iscariot joined them and said, Listen to what I have to say. Over there, near the city walls, things are taking place in the shadow, and I just saw covered lights. Immanuel spoke. These may be the persecutors which Judas Iscariot is bringing, for he secretly followed us here, that he might betray me. Immanuel turned and walked away, fell on his face and wept, saying, If it is possible to let this cup pass me, but not as I will, but the law of my destiny shall be fulfilled, so that I will be enlightened in thy wondrous secret. Give unto me strength, that I might bear my consignment in truth and honor. For my human form I am sorely afraid. Excuse me. When he returned to his disciples, he found them sleeping and spoke to Peter. Can you not watch with me for even an hour, lest I am alone in my hour of adversity? Be awake and great, lest you be tempted. The spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak. A second time he walked, and again he fell on his face, and said, Is it not possible that this cup pass by me, so that I shall drink it, so that I shall be enlightened in this secret and fulfill my mission in a faraway country? Again, when he returned, he found the disciples sleeping, and only Judas Iscariot stood watch with him through the desolate hours. Again, Immanuel was so agitated that he walked, and again fell on his face for a 3rd time, and cried bitterly, and pleaded, I am so afraid, because I know that I have to go my way, which is decided already for me. How willing is the spirit, and how weak is the flesh, which is so frightened of pain. and he was so afraid that drops of blood oozed from his veins, and his entire body trembled. And with his face flushed red, he came to his disciples and spoke to them. "Do you want to sleep or rest now, or do you want to watch with me? Behold, the hour has come that I shall be turned over into the hands of the persecutors. Get up and let us go, for behold, the persecutors are coming." The kiss of betrayal. While he was still speaking, behold, Judah Iscariot, the son of the Pharisee, came, and with him a great number of people sent by the high priests and the elders of the people. These ones bore swords and poles with spear points. Judah Iscariot had given them a signal as they had plotted the arrest, and had said to them, "Behold, I shall flatter him and confuse him, as if I were to repent the sins of my life, and as a sign of flattery there will be a kiss, and behold, whomever I shall place the kiss, you shall seize." He then stepped up to Immanuel and said, "I greet you, Master, who allows me to repent my old life, so that I now shall follow your teachings." Then he walked forward unto Immanuel and kissed him on the cheek. Immanuel said to him, "My friend, why have you come to me to tell a lie? For in your mind burns treason." Immanuel ceased. The persecutors came to him, put their hands on Immanuel, and seized him. Behold, one of the group had changed his mind and was filled with remorse, and stepped forward to defend Immanuel. He stretched out his hand and pulled forth a sword, and in the fray cut off the ear of the servant of a high priest. Immanuel spoke to him, "Put your sword back into its sheath, for he who takes a sword without need will perish by the sword. Or do you think that I could not have fled before your crowd of persecutors arrived? But how could I have gone my way if I had done so?" And this one turned away and cried bitterly and fled. He was never seen again. But Immanuel talked to the crowd. "You came here like ye would come unto a murderer, with swords and spears, in order to capture me. It would have been far easier for you to capture me within the city. Daily I sat there in the temple teaching, yet you did not seize me. You hypocrites! You must have been afraid of the people, and therefore you come to me like thieves, so that you can throw me into prison in darkness, and not within sight of the people. Verily I say to you, darkness will be light, and your deed will be in everyone's mouth, and you will be accused for aeons of time to come." Thereupon Simon the Pharisee spoke and said, "Your sayings are stupid and filled with lies, for why should we be afraid of the people? You taught the people falsely and called our laws lies, and for that you will suffer. You thought we would not catch you and bring you to trial for your transgressions, but you are mistaken therein. For one among you, who was with you, yet was not of your persuasion, has betrayed you for 30 pieces of silver. That one is Judas Iscariot." But Immanuel answered and said, "Verily I say to you, you may succeed in accusing Judas Iscariot of treason in front of the people, and the accusation may stand for long years to come, but truth will come forth and be in everyone's mouth, namely, that Judas Iscariot is not my traitor, but your son, Judah Iscariot, who bears the name of his father, the Pharisee." Simon the Pharisee and father of Judah Iscariot was blinded by fury, and lurched forward and struck Immanuel in the face with his fist, because he was afraid of his words. When this happened, much confusion set in, and the disciples fled from the place. Before the high council, those who had seized Immanuel took him to the high priest, Caiaphas, near whom the scribes, Pharisees, and elders of the people had gathered, so that they could pass sentence on him. Even though many false witnesses appeared, they could find no false testimony. At last, 2 stepped forward and declared, "He has said that God is not the creation, but a man like you and me, and thus he said, that he was begotten by a guardian angel of God, namely Gabriel." The high priest arose and said to Immanuel, "Are you not going to reply to what these 2 are witnessing against you? Are you not going to defend yourself?" But Immanuel kept his silence and smiled softly. When the high priest got up and said to Immanuel, I swear on the living God that you say that you were begotten by the angel Gabriel, who is an angel of God, as transmitted by the Scriptures." Immanuel responded, "You say it. But I also tell you that God is not the creation, but he is Lord over the human races, which were begotten through his will. God has come from the far distances of the universe, and brought the world under his will, and he is the uppermost emperor of these human races, one of which is here in this country, one in the east to the land of India, and the other in the north from the land of the king who wears thorns, or who wears horns, as far as the sea where icy mountains drift free in the waters. But there are 7 human races which live in all the different directions of the wind, from one end of the earth unto the other. God is also Lord over them, even though they serve others who are also not of this earth. For those ones are known by different names, for their language is greatly different. If you consider God as the creation, you are mistaken, and violating the truth. For since you and I are human, God is also of humanness, except that he is spiritual perfection, and infinite in his abilities, and infinitely more advanced than any of the human races created by him. God and his celestial sons are other human races. They have come from the stars in their machines which travel the universe and appear to be made of metal. But immeasurably higher than God and his celestial sons, who are the guardian angels, stands the creation. Above all is the creation. The creation alone is the immeasurable secret which begets life, and also is infinitely higher than is God. Recognize the truth of this teaching, so that you may attain knowledge and wisdom in truth." Thereupon the high priest was filled with crazy fury, and tore Immanuel's clothing, and screamed at Immanuel, "He blasphemed God, the Creator! Why should we have any further testimony? Behold, now you have heard his blasphemy, and what do you think his guilt deserves?" They shouted, "He deserves death!" Then they beat him with their fists, and spit into his face and upon his body. Some of them hit him from behind his back, and taunted, "Prophecy, you great king of wisdom, and son of the celestial sun! Who is it that is beating you now?" Peter's denial. Peter had followed Immanuel in the crowd, and hid among the people who looked through the windows. And so he saw what was done to Immanuel. And a maid came upon him and said, "Are you not one among those who are the disciples of this Immanuel from Galilee?" When Peter was asked by the maid, he denied it, and said, "What kind of senselessness do you accuse me of? For I do not know what you are saying." But because of the maid's question, he was fearful, and he wanted to escape from there, for he was afraid for his life. But as he passed through the doorway, another maid saw him and said to the people, "This man too was together with the blasphemer from Nazareth." But Peter lied a second time, raised his hand to swear, and said, "Verily, I do not know this confused person." When Peter left the house, those who had been standing there came up to him, saying, "Are you not one of them who serve this Immanuel? You are giving yourself away through your speech." Peter then started to revile Immanuel, and cursed himself and swore, "I do not know this crazy person, nor his blasphemous teachings of God." Soon thereafter a cock crowed 3 times, and he was stunned by the words of Immanuel, which flooded through his mind. Peter ran away and bitterly wept.